The deposition from? Where is that room?
I'm not gonna tell you. You're never gonna see me again.
Madam Court Reporter, same thing. Mark the transcript. And who is in the room with you, if anyone?
No one's in this actual room with me.
Okay. And what other things do you have in the room besides the phone that you've identified?
Are you stupid? I'm not gonna tell you other things. I don't have the time to be talking about. I got a chair in the room. You are talking to the richest black person in the history of America.
All right, so are you ready to dive into, well, this is Kanye West.
Always.
But this time it's not going to be about his music or Yeezys or any of that. We're going deep into some legal stuff, like depositions and lawsuits.
Yeah, you sent me some pretty interesting articles and even a YouTube clip.
Yeah, we're going to try to figure out what we can learn about Kanye through how he acts when he's being questioned,
Yeah, because they're kind of like a different side of him, isn't it? Like depositions aren't really like the stage or the studio, right?
Totally. So back in 2020, Kanye got sued for a whole lot of money by this tech company called MyChannel.
$20 million, actually. They said he basically ripped off their tech and their ideas, stuff that was meant for like his Sunday service events and his Yeezy brand.
Yeah, so it's like serious business, right? Intellectual property theft and all that. And they did eventually settle in 2021. They both dropped their claims and all that. But what really caught my eye was how Kanye acted during the whole thing, especially in his deposition.
There's footage of it.
Yeah, there's this new show on A&E called Interrogation Raw, Celebrity Under Oath. They're going to show Kanye's deposition on there.
Oh, wow.
And apparently he shows up on the Zoom call with his hat pulled down low, and he's not really making eye contact.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's totally focused on his phone.
Kind of like he's trying to hide even though he's like the center of attention there.
Right. And when the lawyer, this guy Michael Popak, asks him about it, Kanye's like, due to my mental geniusness, in order to focus on this bullshit, I need to be on a phone.
Wow.
It's just so Kanye, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it classic Kanye. But it's definitely like a statement.
But do you think he's using that mental geniusness thing as a shield,
Yeah.
to kind of avoid criticism or justify how he's acting?
That's a good question. I mean, he did finally put his phone away, but then he puts on this full face mask and says, you don't have the right to see my face.
Like he's going back and forth between hiding and then saying these really bold things. It's almost like he's testing the limits, trying to see how much he can control what's happening. And then it gets even more tense. The lawyer just asks him where he is and what's in the room, just basic stuff. And Kanye just loses it. He starts yelling, are you stupid? I'm not going to tell you other things. I don't have time to be talking about, I got a chair in the room. You are talking to the richest black person in the history of America.
Wow.
So what do you think about that outburst?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. On the one hand, it shows how he sees himself. He thinks he's super important and exceptional. But on the other hand, maybe it's a defense mechanism. He's trying to deflect from the accusations by asserting his power,
you can't touch me, I'm too powerful.
Exactly. And remember this lawsuit. It's directly attacking his image as a businessman and a creator. And that's got to hurt, especially for someone like Kanye, who's so image conscious.
Yeah, and this whole idea of a control and image, it reminds me of that YouTube clip you sent me from that Valuetainment channel. Kanye talks about how he feels about getting sued, and he says this crazy thing. I almost borderline like being sued because it's the only time where I can be myself.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
So what do you think he means by that?
It almost sounds like he sees these formal legal situations as a way to kind of break free, almost like a rebellion against what people expect of him. Do you think maybe he feels trapped by the Kanye persona he's built?
I think there's definitely some of that going on. He also tells the story in the clip about another deposition. This one involved Suge Night, and Kanye refused to answer anything until the lawyer showed him respect.
Interesting.
He demanded to be treated on his own terms.
So it's all about control and respect for him. Wow. It seems like when he demands respect, it's his way of taking control in a situation where he might actually feel powerless.
Right. It's like these legal things, which are supposed to hold him accountable. They end up becoming the stage for him to push back against authority and really assert himself,
It makes you wonder, is this all just an act? Or are we seeing the real Kanye?
Yeah.
It's like he hates the rules, but then he uses them to express himself. And it's not just to get attention, right? It's like he needs to control what people think about him.
Yeah, to control the whole narrative.
Exactly. He's not just answering questions. He's setting the agenda, changing how the whole thing works. And it goes back to that mental geniusness thing again. He thinks he's above it all, playing a totally different game.
But how does that fit with him saying he likes being sued? Because it lets him be himself. Like, if he's really a genius, wouldn't he find these legal things boring?
Maybe it's not about how smart he is, but more about being real. Maybe he feels like Kanye West, the one everyone knows, is fake, like a performance. And when he's in these legal situations, there's no feign or anything. He has to face the truth. So maybe he feels like he can drop the act and just be himself.
So it's not about getting rid of rules altogether. It's about making his own rules, even in places like a deposition where there are a lot of rules.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the power dynamics here. He's being accused of things that could ruin his reputation. So of course he wants to be in control, to remind everyone who's in charge.
Especially since he's never been afraid of confrontation or anything controversial.
You got that right. Interrupting Taylor Swift at the VMAs, public feuds, pushing boundaries is kind of his thing.
So this deposition is just another example of that.
Maybe.
But what if it's deeper than that? What if there's something emotional going on too? He's talked about having bipolar disorder. Could these outbursts be part of that? Like, he's not handling the pressure.
That's definitely possible. We have to remember that mental health can really affect how people act under pressure. And Kanye's under a lot of pressure all the time.
I almost borderline like being sued because it's the only time where I can be myself. I mean, I was in a deposition with Suge Knight. My hands on my face like this, right? And the lawyer was sitting, Suge sitting right there, and Suge's lawyer sitting next to me. He said, take your hands off your face. I looked at him, he said, take your hands off your face. I said, look, sir, you're gonna have to ask me nicely to take my hands off my face. Please talk to me with some type of respect. And he says, okay, Mr. West, can you please take your hands off your face? And I said, no.
Can you actually see it? Because I can. By the way, for what it's worth for me, I can watch some of those depositions by some of the most crazy people, the depositions, the questions that are being asked and how angry they get, the lawyers. It's super entertaining.
So maybe it's not as simple as just saying it's an act or it's real. Maybe it's a mix of his personality, his mental health, and the situation with this lawsuit.
And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. We're seeing all the complexities of someone who's super famous. Someone who's always trying to balance fame, creativity, and his own personal struggles.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion. You find something new each time. Just when you think you understand him, there's another layer.
Yeah, that's human behavior for you. It's never simple. There's always something more to learn.
So where does that leave us? What can we actually say about Kanye based on this deposition and his comments about lawsuits?
Well, I don't think we can say for sure, but I think it's safe to say that he really needs to be in control. And he likes to provoke people to get that control.
Yeah, he definitely sees the world as his stage. And he's the director.
And that's what makes him so interesting. Even when he's being controversial or confusing, he makes us think about what we believe about celebrities, about creativity, about being human.
And like that need to be in control, it's everywhere, you know, his music, his fashion, his business stuff, even this lawsuit. He's always pushing the limits, like he doesn't want to be put in a box.
And that's what makes people love him and hate him.
Right.
That he does things his own way. He's brilliant. He's got a big ego. He can be vulnerable, but he always pushes back against everything.
Yeah, like he wants us to figure him out, but we never really can.
And maybe that's what makes him so great. As an artist and as like a cultural icon, he keeps us guessing, and he makes us question everything we thought we knew.
So as we wrap up this look at Kanye's deposition, I'm curious what you think. Do you think this is the real Kanye? Or is he just playing a part?
That's the big question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. But I do think this deposition, like everything else he does, shows us a bit of his mind. What drives him and how he sees the world.
It definitely leaves us with more questions than answers. But that's what's so interesting about Kanye. There's always more to discover and think about.
And that's what we've tried to do here. We took this legal thing and used it to explore bigger ideas about who we are, what we create, and what it means to be human.
So if you're interested in learning more about Kanye, there's so much out there. His music, his fashion, his businesses, his life. Check it out and decide for yourself what you think.
And the most important thing is to keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep an open mind.
That's all for this deep dive into Kanye West. Thanks for listening.